Hello everyone, welcome back to the Spotlight. We're back again after another defeat. How many is that now? 1 win in 8, is it, I think? With Newcastle, Brighton to come up and obviously City in the FA Cup final. We could be looking at 1 win in 11. So let's get into the game yesterday just quickly because, I mean, there's a bit to talk about, not a lot in my opinion. First off, first 20 minutes, I was sat at my dad's house watching it with the family in a barbecue as it's hot here for once in England. And I said we're 20-minute FC. And I thought we actually played quite well for 20 minutes. It's the most we've kept the ball all season. We hadn't kept the ball like we did in that first 20 minutes all season. We seemed to have something coming from the back from Onana, and Amrabat was dropping into the defence and getting the ball. And right on 20 minutes, I'd said to me brother-in-law and my dad, we're 20-minute FC. This won't last all game. And funnily enough, my brother-in-law said, 20 minutes and 2 seconds. You were right. Went to pot, didn't it? And from there, from maybe just a bit before that, we just, again, the patterns seemed to go, or instead of Arsenal sitting off us a bit, they decided to play 5 or 10 yards further up the pitch. And once we didn't have that easy out ball, we're clueless at getting out from the back. So Onana starts going long and long and long. We're losing the ball after the ball after the ball. And that's where the goal comes from in the end. The pattern stopped at the back. Onana's going long. We're losing it all the time. And the defence is all over the place again for that goal. I mean, I've got a screenshot of it here. I'll get it up, because it's crazy. Look at this line. Even if you forget Casemiro in this line, look at the rest of them. So you've got Casemiro, who's down just on the D at the edge there. You can just see his head. Fortunately, I ain't got a pointer for this. I'll try and get myself on top of the screen. Here we go, look. So, yeah, I can point at stuff, maybe. So, you've got Casemiro, who's just somewhere around... This is more harder than I thought it would be, but he's right on the D. On the edge of the A, you can just see his head on that screenshot. And then Wan-Bissaka is off the picture, further up the pitch than Casemiro on the right-hand side. That's Amrabat in the middle, who's a midfielder, who's deeper than the other centre-back, Johnny Evans, and then Dalot is practically on the halfway line. So even if you're blaming Casemiro for not getting out quick enough, and yes, I'm not saying it's not Casemiro's fault here, because he's way deep, but what people are forgetting is if you actually watch this clip back on Match of the Day, Casemiro goes and makes himself an option for Onana back in his own box, and Onana goes long. And yes, Casemiro don't get back out quick enough, but I think even if he sprinted out, he ain't getting that far out that quick. He would have still been onside. I think you've got to look at this in a bit more of a tactical way, I think. Yes, Casemiro is too slow getting out, but he's trying to be an option to the keeper who's oofed it, and then he can't get out quick enough. You've got Dalot pressing the ball on the halfway line at left back, and it's just clipped in over his head. Johnny Evans has obviously come out with Dalot, and he's not looked across his line to see where Wan-Bissaka and Casemiro are. And Amrabat, the central defensive midfielders, deeper than the back four's line. If we're classing the line as Johnny Evans, why is Amrabat deeper than Johnny Evans? Then from there, it's clipped over Dalot's head in no man's land. Johnny Evans gets back. And when I first watched it, I thought, fair enough, he's been left for dead by Havertz. It's Johnny Evans. But the reality is, Johnny Evans doesn't do anything. Havertz literally walks past him and squares it, and then Wan-Bissaka's not with his runner. It's a catastrophe. Absolute catastrophe. Look at this line here. It's a diagonal line, then Casemiro on the D. It's like the Mighty Ducks' flying V. It is absolutely pathetic. But What I will say about the team, and that's the goal, you know, it is what it is, I guess. We never expected to win in this game. We haven't been battered. Some people would say that that is a positive. We've still lost another game, 14 losses. 14 losses this season. However, the way the team's set up, I think we were a bit better on the ball, at least at the start. And we were a lot more solid with like Amrabat and McTominay in there. The midfield wasn't so wide open. And we've lost 1-0 to Arsenal. And I don't think Arsenal turned up on their best form at all. And I think they knew as long as they didn't let us in behind them, we weren't going to be a threat. So I think they actually played a bit deeper and just played a game plan. I think if they really wanted it, they could have stepped it up 2 or 3 gears and absolutely smashed us. But they did what they had to do to win. There's a lot of people out there saying we played a lot better. I think the team shape was better. For certain, the team shape was better. We looked more compact in midfield. And we didn't let him through us so easily. Onana made a few good saves, to be fair to him. But why don't we set up like that more often? If we set up like that against Newcastle and Brighton, we might beat them. But we'll probably go back to Bruno, Rashford and whoever else and be wide open again in the midfield. Just stay like this in a compact midfield. And we'll get on to the front three because I thought Ahmad looked really good. His feet are insane. The way he glides past people in his close control. He was by far one of our best players on the pitch. How he ain't getting minutes is crazy. Over Anthony, Garnacho and Rashford. I think I said it on last week's video about Garnacho. Yes, he's young. Yes, he shouldn't be playing so much. And I said it about his coaching. Is he been told to do what he's doing, as in run into blind alleys? Every time you get the ball, run at him. Or is it something he's doing because he's young and raw? And that needs to be coached out of him. Now, I was talking to my mate the other day and somebody else on another channel about it. And if that's not coached out of Garnacho, so he looks up more and he beats a man, or he looks to beat a man and then pass it, or to me a lot of the time he don't look like he beats anyone with skill. He like knocks it round him and runs after it, which is fine. You get round him. A lot of the time he's off balance. Like he'll knock it and he's like stumbling to get to the ball, which is why he can't get a cross in. Or he's up against 2 players and he does what Rashford does and runs into them. And yes, we'll let Garnacho off. He's talented, raw and young. But he cannot be doing that in 2 to 3 years' time. Or he's just another Rashford who had loads of potential, pace, and he has not been coached to use it properly. Ahmad, like I say, I thought he was quality when he was on the pitch. Unfortunately, he went off injured again. But he looked like he could keep the ball. He played simple. When he ran at people, he glid past them. He was gliding past players. And if you look at the way Ahmad takes people on with close control and luring them in and then just using body feints and stuff to glide past them. And Garnacho's more like, I get it, I'll knock it and run round him, and then the defender leans on me and I stumble and I lose the ball. He's like more of a pace player, where Ahmad's more technically gifted with his feet. I really like Ahmad from what I've seen of him yesterday. And obviously in other games, he should be starting games for certain. Hojlund, you all know my thoughts on Hojlund if you watched this again before. Yes, he's against 2 very good centre-backs, strong, aggressive, solid. But again, every time the ball goes to his feet or his chest, out-muscled. He's out-muscled. He loses the ball. His first touch ain't good enough. And people can talk about service Yeah, fine. He don't get that much service, whatever. But McTominay scored, what, 10 goals? As many goals as Hojlund off the bench and stuff by getting in the box at the right time. I think he's too young, too raw. He's a prospect. I think he's another in-behind player. I don't think he's someone who's going to make clever runs in the box and score loads of 6-yard goal boxes like Haaland does. And I don't think he's a link-up player like someone you can fire the ball into and he holds it and the wingers can get in and around him. I think he's another player to play on the counter. He's quick. When he gets his head down and runs after the ball, if you can get him in behind, he gets in behind. But there's been no evidence for me this season that Rasmus Hojlund is an all-round striker. His touch ain't good enough. His hold-up play's not good enough. Yes, we've probably not given him enough chances to see if he's a real clinical finisher or not. Let's not forget he went 16 games without a goal. He scored 6 or 7 in a row, and since he's been back, he's not scored again, I don't think. It's not good enough. And people say he's 19, 20, 21, whatever he is. The fact is, we bought him for 70-odd million quid. And I'm afraid people say it's not his fault, the price tag and all that lot, but you've got to live up to your price tag a bit. Why is everyone on Anthony's back so bad for being 80-odd million quid? He runs around and works hard on the pitch and he's crap. Why aren't people saying that about Hojlund? Because for some reason people seem to like Hojlund and they don't like Anthony. The reality is they've both been as crap as each other and they're both overpriced. Maybe a harsh statement there, but let me know what you think on the Hojlund and Anthony debate. Like, they're both 30 or 40 million pound too much for what they are. They're both squad players. They're both not good enough to be starting week in, week out for Man United. And yes, Hojlund's young. Yes, he's got some potential there. But with our coaching, is there any evidence with our coaching and how players come to Man United and progress that even if Hojlund could be the next Haaland, he won't be at Man United under our current coaching regime? And I mean, what can I say about Ten Hag this week? I don't want to go on about it too much. I think for once he changed system a bit, made us a bit more pragmatic. We were okay, but we again lacked cutting edge. Yes, we had a bit of the ball. Yes, we had some tidy spells in possession here and there. Still, we're going long from Onana. Still, there's no pattern of play. And yeah, Martinez would change it. Would he? Really? What, you're telling me that if our only outlet from the back is Martinez, that oppositions are not going to just go, let the rest of them have it, just everybody press Martinez when he's got the ball? I'm afraid it don't work. Martinez coming back on his own will not change the way we play out from the back, because every other team's press will just target Martinez after a few games. You need your whole back four to do it. I mean, at least he played Delo at left back and Wan-Bissaka at right back, because that was a disaster versus Palace, wasn't it? Amrabat, I mean, he looked okay, Amrabat, didn't he? But he's slow, sideways passing. He's just another McTominay, isn't he, really? You know, he's not good enough. And like I say, the front three, we don't get anything out of them whatsoever. Ahmad had moments, and that's it. I mean, coming into Newcastle in midweek, you never know. Newcastle are one of them teams a bit like us, aren't they? They could turn up us and run us off the pitch, beat us 2 or 3-0, or they could turn up and not do anything and we end up winning the game. I think that's both. That's probably what it's going to be like for Newcastle and Brighton. Brighton end of the year, I don't know if they're still in for European position. Have they got anything to play for at the end of the year? Not sure. I think if we're looking to win a game before the end of the season, it's got to be Brighton. But if we don't beat Newcastle or Brighton, it's 1 win in 11. And whether you're Eric Ten Hag in or Eric Ten Hag out, 1 win in 11 as a Man United manager, whether you blame the players, the injuries, the takeover, the coaching, whatever you blame as a Man United manager, 1 win in 11 games is horrendous. There's no excuse for it. There's none. If any other manager prior to Erik ten Hag had won 1 game in 11, would they be getting all of these excuses come out of the bag? No, the whole fan base would want them out of the club. And there's a lot of channels out there, and especially the big ones, who are going on about the real injury crisis that's happened in the Palace game and this game where we've got no back four or nothing, and saying, oh, you can't sack him, he's got no back four. He's playing with... Yeah, Palace and Arsenal, you can let him off to some extent. We have been absolutely depleted. But you're not forgetting about the other 35 games of this season where we're on for one win in 11, where we've lost 14, where we were out the Champions League before Christmas, where we've conceded 81 goals over all competitions. Let's not have this injury crisis thing in these last couple of games affect your judgment of the last 35 games, because I'm afraid over the season, there's very little positivity to take out of the players or the manager or the coaching or the results. And like I've said on many others, I'm going to keep this one short this week because we've got Newcastle in midweek as well, but I'm going to keep it short. You tell me the reasons why you think Ten Hag should stay. Because if you put in a list, all of the records he's broken negatively this year, the performances, the goal difference, the loss ratio and record, the wide open midfield, the seemingly lack of in-game tactics and management, the stubbornness to play the same players all the time and not change formation. You know, the problem is who do you get? I mean, I probably would have Tuchel, but he's not. I mean, I'm not desperate here. I mean, the worry I have with keeping Ten Hag is we will spend money this summer, whether it's 100 million, 200 million, whatever we spend, we're going to buy 4 or 5 players. Forget who we're selling. Do you trust Erik ten Hag to buy 5 or 6 more players for a couple of 100 million? And what if it goes wrong and he gets sacked at Christmas? To me, we're resetting the club from the top. The players are obviously not playing for him. Like I said in last week's video, 16 players he's bought. Last week against Palace, 9 of the 11 were people he's brought through or started and they weren't playing for him. He has put his stamp on this team. No matter what people say about who he's signed and what he's signed and whether there is signings or not, he has some say in who this club gets through the door. And not one of them, to me, has been a standout signing. And do you trust him to go buy another 4 or 5 for another 150, 200 mil for it to go tits up in the first half of the season and him be sacked in December? And then we got a new manager from January who probably won't get backed in January and we've lost another season. That is my worry. I mean, he might, maybe under Ineos, we might buy 4 or 5 quality players and Ten Hag turns it round. And I think that is what everyone's hoping, that it's more on the players than the manager. And to some extent, I know I'm anti Ten Hag out, but I'm not anti Ten Hag. Like, he's had a rough deal, there's no doubt about it. Did he come to the club at the wrong time? Maybe. If he was coming in now under Ineos and we had someone else for the last 2 years, we might see something different. But again, the wide open midfield, the lack of style of play in 2 years now. Don't give me the injury thing and his players. Like I say, he's bought 16 and loaned 16 players to implement his style. He bought a keeper to play out from the back style. You know, if you want to say the players that he's bought to play his style, most of them haven't been able to play because he's bought them injured. You know, there's no redeeming feature. I'm struggling to think of positives. That's the problem. He's fallen out with Sancho. Fine. Sancho was being an idiot and he'd not proven himself at the club. Fine. We kicked Cristiano Ronaldo out of the team. At the time, everyone thought, yes, Ten Hag, ruthless, get him out of the club. But the reality is, the longer that Cristiano Ronaldo thing's gone on with him, and yeah, maybe he lost a lot of fans and people didn't respect him for doing it, but it's all come out, hasn't it? The Carrington thing, the club. What Ronaldo said now is all come out to be true. Yeah, there's talking falling out with Varane and, you know, and then he's falling out with all these players for stuff, but then Rashford goes on the piss, misses training and whatnot, and then he just says sorry and he's back in the team every week, even though he walks around Old Trafford like he shat his pants and he's trying to fucking stop it from falling out of his shorts. You know, I don't get it. We've got Anthony, we've got Ahmad and Palestri and that lot on the bench. We're playing a whole season without a left back when we've got a youth winning under 21 side. Just put them in. If like Harry Armour says it is the left back, if you don't work for a game, fine. You say, yeah, I tried it. But the other left backs he's tried there haven't worked either, have they? Because they're all playing out of position. And I mean, I'm starting to rant again here, and I was trying to make this video a bit more positive because I think we were okay against Arsenal. Like if we played like we played against Arsenal in that structure for the other 30 games of this season against the lesser teams, we probably wouldn't have got beat so much. That's my point. But we'll probably go against Newcastle midweek and he'll be back to Bruno Fernandes pressing from the front, leaving gaping holes in midfield. And everyone's like, we need Bruno. What would Bruno have done against Palace? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What would he have done yesterday? He probably would have vacated midfield, so we wouldn't have been so structured in midfield and we'd have probably got beat by more than one. Yes, he might create a goal. So what if you create a goal, but we concede 3 or 4, you know? You done, like, done with it. Had enough of it. We've done okay against Arsenal. We've got another good, pressing, high-energy team in midweek. Stick with this team. He won't. You can guarantee that Rashford will probably be back. Bruno will be back. And we will be back to being wide open again. But I said I was going to finish nearly 10 minutes ago. I am finishing now. Tell me what you think again about Erik ten Hag and in or out. Because every week it changes. Like people this week probably think that was all right against Arsenal. They wanted to keep. Last week they all wanted him out. Think of the 35, 36 games we've had. Go through the records he's broken negatively. Think about the things he's done positively, which most of them were last season. There's very little positive come out of this season. And think, why? What are the real reasons you're Ten Hag in? Honestly, list them below to me. What are the real reasons you're in? Is it because you don't think... Because I think a lot of Man United fans are Ten Hag in as a sympathy vote because, one, there's no other manager that good to take the mantle. 2, we've been given the injury excuse all season, and every time Ten Hag talks in a press conference, that is all he talks about, injuries, 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 injuries. I'm afraid injuries in defence don't mean you need a wide open midfield for 30 games of the season, to Eric. You know? You can have all the excuses you like about 30 different back four combinations, but when your midfield's a donut, it don't matter who you've got at the back. Worst shot record in the league. Hundreds and hundreds of shots conceded. 81 goals conceded. Biggest loss record. Going to be the lowest ever Premier League finish. Somebody find me a reason other than we want to give him another year under the structure. There's not another manager to come in to take over. They're not reasons to keep Ten Hag. They're reasons. They're because there's nobody else in line to take the job. They're not reasons to keep him. They're just excuses because there's nobody else lined up. Go through this season, like I've just said in the list a couple of times there, and go through and find a positive, because there's very, very, very little positives coming out of Man United, and especially Erik ten Hag's record this year. And on that note, I am going again, 25-minute video. I wanted to keep it to 15, but being it's just once a week show, I've got to get it all off my chest. And I'll see you probably after the next weekend. I think we've got Newcastle midweek, Brighton probably next weekend when wrapping up. So we'll have a review of them 2 games and another chat about the season then, and I'll probably see what we get onto in the summer with transfers and the takeover and everything else after that. So I will see you then and see you next week, and I will talk to you then, everybody. Like, favourite and sub.